Matthew chapter 26. When Jesus had ended this discourse, he said to his disciples, "You know that the Passover is in 2 days, and the Son of Man will be delivered up treacherously to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the open court of the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and consulted together in order to arrest Jesus by stratagem secretly and put him to death. But they said, "It must not be during the feast, for fear that there will be a riot among the people." Now when Jesus came back to Bethany, and he was in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very precious perfume, and she poured it on his head, and as he reclined at the table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "For what purpose is all this waste? For the perfume might have been sold for a large sum, and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, fully aware of this, said to them, "Why do you bother the woman? She's done a noble, praiseworthy, and beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this perfume on my body, she has done something to prepare me for my burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news, the gospel, is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will be told also in memory of her." Then one of the 12 apostles, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" And they weighed out for and paid to him 30 pieces of silver, about $21.60. And from that moment he sought a fitting opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and said to him, "Where do you wish us to pursue you to eat the Passover supper?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The master says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" And accordingly the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they made ready the Passover supper. When it was evening, he was reclining at table with the 12 disciples. And as they were eating, he said, "Solemnly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they were exceedingly pained and distressed and deeply hurt and sorrowful, and began to say to him one after another, "Surely it cannot be I, Lord, can it?" He replied, "He who has just dipped in his hand in the same bread dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man is going, just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better and more profitable and wholesome for that man if he had never been born." Judas the betrayer said, "Surely it is not I, is it, Master?" He said to him, "You have stated the fact." Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread and, praising God, gave thanks, and asked them to bless it to their use. And when he had broken it, he gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which ratifies the agreement and is being poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I say to you, I shall not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it with you new and of superior quality in my Father's kingdom." And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all be offended and stumble and fall away because of me this night, distrusting and deserting me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up to life again, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter declared to him, Though they are all offended and stumble and fall away because of you and distrust you and desert you, I will never do so. And Jesus said to him, solemnly, I declare you this very night, before a single rooster crows, you will deny and disown me 3 times. Peter said to him, even if I must die with you, I will not deny or disown you. All the disciples said the same thing. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he told his disciples, sit down here while I go over yonder and pray. And talking with him, Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to show grief and distress of mind, and was deeply depressed. Then he said to them, my soul is very sad and deeply grieved, so that I am almost dying of sorrow. Stay here and keep awake, and keep watch with me. I am going a little farther. He threw himself upon the ground on his face and prayed, saying, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, not what I desire, but as you will and desire. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, what? Are you so utterly unable to stay awake and keep watch with me for 1 hour? All of you must keep awake, give strict attention, be cautious and active, and watch and pray, that you may not come into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went away and prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass by unless I drink it, your will be done. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were weighed down with sleep. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the 3rd time, using the same words. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of especially wicked sinners, whose way or nature it is to act in opposition to God. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. As he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12 apostles, came up, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, the one I shall kiss is the man, seize him. And he came up to Jesus at once and said, hail, greetings, good health to you, long life to you, Master. And he embraced him and kissed him with pretended warmth and devotion. Jesus said to him, friend, for what are you here? Then they came up and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus reached out his hand and drew his sword, and striking the body of the high priest, cut off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, put your sword back into its place. For all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you suppose that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will immediately provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scripture be fulfilled that it must come about this way? And at that moment Jesus said to the crowds, have you come out with swords and clubs as you would against a robber to capture me? Day after day I was accustomed to sit in the porches and courts of the temple teaching, but you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place in order that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and, fleeing, escaped. But those who had seized Jesus took him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest's home. He even went inside and sat with the guards to see the end. Now the chief priests and the whole council sought to get false witnesses to testify against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, but many witnesses came forward to testify. At least 2 men came forward and testified. This fellow said, I am able to tear down the sanctuary of the temple of God and build it up again in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said, Have you no answer to make? What about this, that these men testify against you? But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest said to him, I call upon you to swear by the living God and tell us whether you are the Christ and the Son of God. Jesus said to him, You've stated the fact. More than that, I tell you, you will in the future see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the Almighty, coming on the clouds of the sky. Then the high priest tore his clothes and exclaimed, He has uttered blasphemy. What need have we of further evidence? You have now heard his blasphemy. What do you think now? They answered. He deserves to be put to death. And they spat in his face and struck him with their fists. And some slapped him in the face, saying, Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who was it that struck you? Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and one maid came up to him and said, You were also with Jesus the Galilean. But he denied it falsely before them all, saying, I do not know what you mean. And when he had gone out to the porch, another maid saw him, and she said to the bystanders, This fellow was with Jesus the Nazarene. And again he denied it, and disowned him with an oath, saying, I do not know the man. After a while the bystanders came up and said to Peter, You certainly are one of them too, for even your accent betrays you. Then Peter turned to invoke a curse on himself and to swear, I do not even know the man. And at that moment a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered Jesus' words. And when he had said, Before a single rooster crows, you will surely deny and disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly.